Hello, friends around the world. This is Will Barney from Eden Global Services here with another global update here on Thursday, March 19th. As we look at many of the happenings around the world, we've got quite a few things to discuss today, and I'm going to share quite a bit of the evidences of things that have been transpiring around the world over this last week. There is a lot going on. As you can see, the title of this episode is The Defeat of the Cabal. This is about eradicating the control grid that's been keeping the world ensnared for a long time. So we're going to be discussing quite a few things that are going on right now. They're all part of bringing that down and getting rid of it for us so that we can actually have a financial reset without there being blood in the streets in the process. So we're going to get to our slides, and because we got so much to do, I'm not going to ramble too much. I want to get to each of the different pieces, and I will comment on each of those one at a time. So we'll start here with the first slide, which is our financial news. Let me back up. Here we go. This is from the usdebtclock.org. If those who are not following this, you can go to that website. There are messages displayed there from time to time, as well as the standard information, which is current debts that you'll see there. You can see the U.S. crested over $39 trillion to the Federal Reserve, which we just saw recently, and that popped up on the website. But if you look at this, they put up this graphic. It says banking transformed. The Fed banking cartel, of course, on the left, $5.5 trillion a year in interest, okay? And then on the right, we have 50 state credit union banks, $1 trillion a year in interest. So dramatic change, right? As we switch over, it says state revenue from interest eliminates all property taxes. State credit union banks are owned by the citizens of each state. The USA dividend dollar is the one common currency in all 50 states. So you've got wealth freedom at the bottom and money at the other side with the dividend, U.S. dividend dollar. In the middle, it's called a dividend dollar because the assets of the country continue to grow and expand. And as that does so, it continues to increase the value backing this new dollar that's coming. So we've got some interesting things to take place this year as we're expecting this new currency to come about. Next image is this, paradigm shift, dark to light. And this came out on exactly the same day as we received a delta of the Q post dark to light. In fact, there were several Q posts dark to light, and this appeared on the very same day as the delta or the same month and date of that original Q post. So dark to light, that gives you an indication of where we're going. The light is coming, so which is good. Also in financial news, want to move to Ripple here for just a second. Ripple's going all in on Brazil. So Ripple's sharing big news about Brazil. Ripple payments, 100 billion processed, 60 plus markets, live with Banco General, Baraza Bank, Nomad, and Zisify, and more. Ripple Custody recently launched in Brazil with CRX, and Ripple Treasury with decades of corporate treasury management enterprise. They bought G-Treasure, if you remember, and so now they have Ripple Treasury. RLUSD, 1.5 billion in market cap, and live with the Mercado Bitcoin, Foxbit, Ripio, and more. So big news coming from Ripple as they're announcing full functionality within the country of Brazil. They've been doing this throughout the world in many different countries, announcing agreements, both financial agreements and as they get licenses to operate in each of these countries. So this is another bit of good news for those of you in Brazil. This is all part of the transition we're watching. I want to share this video. This is a little bit older video. It's been around for a little bit of time, but I wanted to share it to reiterate what Brad Gardinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, is saying regarding XRP and how this does make it much easier to do financial transactions. So let's listen to Brad here.
XRP is like a Bitcoin. It's a digital asset. It's today the third most valuable digital asset. And what we do is we take a transaction between banks, and instead of having a bank pre-fund an account at the other bank, which is how correspondent banking works today, the bank of Brad in dollars would pre-fund to the bank of Julia, perhaps in pounds, and then I would debit and credit that. but that means I have to pre-fund and have dormant capital sitting at that other bank. What we allow banks to do, we allow payment providers to do, is to tap into the liquidity of XRP liquidity. So today there's lots of liquidity between XRP and US dollar. There's lots of liquidity between XRP and British pound. And you could tap into that to move value in real time, in seconds. And even compared to Bitcoin, which takes up to 12 minutes to complete one transaction, XRP is extremely fast at about 3 seconds per transaction. That has meant XRP is extremely scalable in contrast to how Bitcoin works. The consumer itself doesn't actually see that it's flowing through XRP to solve the problem. What the consumer sees is simply a better product at a better price. And so we're seeing more momentum than we've ever had around using XRP to move this liquidity around the world. And so we couldn't really be happier about how that has played out in a world where there's still a lot, I think, of FUD, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt about what's going on in crypto. This is a real use case solving a real problem for real customers.
So I just want to share that video so that we could all remember what this is about and why this is different than the current financial system that we have today. Big news here. This popped up yesterday. Bar chart reported it, but it was also reported on the Treasury X.com account. Just in, U.S. Treasury projected to buy back $15 billion of their own debt today, surpassing last week's $14.7 billion purchase as the largest Treasury buyback in history. So now we have $29 billion purchased in the last 7 days by the U.S. Treasury. This is income that's coming in through tariffs and other means that they're now using to buy back T-bills that they have issued previously. This is a process that you will see continue on as we buy down the private debt that the Treasury owns. And all of this is moving us towards a debt-free society. Expect to see more of these types of payments. What is interesting to note is that as they are working on these debts, this doesn't necessarily mean they're paying it all towards Federal Reserve, but they are buying the T-bills back, and which are privately held, so owned by corporations, pension funds, insurance companies, and individuals, and that is relieving that debt burden. So very fascinating to see that. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission posted this. Today, the commission issued an interpretation that clarifies the application of federal security laws and crypto assets. This was a very big deal regarding where do cryptos fit in the whole idea of securities or not securities, or what are they? And we now have clarification coming. Of course, Ripple had a lawsuit with the SEC, and they fought that for several years, which they won. And now we have clarification actually coming from the SEC regarding this crypto. And so let's look a little bit more into what this says. The Securities Exchange Commission today issued an interpretation clarifying how the federal securities laws apply to certain crypto assets and transactions involving crypto assets. And I want to go to the next page here. For far too long, American builders, innovators, and entrepreneurs have awaited clear guidance on the status of crypto assets under the federal securities and commodity laws. The CFTC chairman, Michael S. Siegel, said, "With today's interpretation, the wait is over. Chairman Atkins and I are committed to fostering a regulatory environment that allows the crypto industry to flourish in the United States with clear and rational rules of the road. Today's joint agency action reflects a shared commitment to developing workable, harmonized regulations for the new frontier of finance." And basically what it says here, this addresses a non-security crypto asset, which is a crypto asset that itself is not a security and may become subject to, and how it may cease to be subject to, an investment contract. So this is bringing clarity to what is a commodity and what is a security. And now we have clarification here. If you look at this, this was posted to give a little bit further detail. Digital commodities, under Section A here. Examples of digital commodities include Aptos, Avalanche, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Cardano, Chainlink, Dogecoin, Ether, Hedera, Litecoin, Polkadot, Shiba Inu, Solana, Stellar, Tezos, and XRP. So that gives you some examples. So these are not securities. These are what's known as commodities. And now here we have clarification. Let's listen to what Paul Atkins had to say who is the chairman of the SEC, regarding this.
So today, I'm pleased to announce that the SEC's persistent failure to provide clarity on this question is over. As we speak, the Commission is implementing a token taxonomy and investment contract interpretation, and you should find that in your inbox or if you look on the website when you get home. Our interpretation, which is grounded in existing law and informed by extensive public input, establishes 4 asset categories that are not deemed to be securities. So digital commodities, digital collectibles, digital tools, and payment stablecoins under the Genius Act. With these categories in place, the interpretation then clarifies that only one crypto asset class remains subject to securities laws, namely digital securities, which are traditional securities that are tokenized. This distinction returns the SEC to its core mission and statutory authority of protecting investors involved in securities transactions. We're not the Securities and Everything Commission anymore. So, thank you.
So what does this mean? This means that only things that are securities now, such as stocks on the stocks exchange, whether it be Dow, NASDAQ, S&P 500, et cetera, those are securities, and as they become tokenized on the blockchain, they retain that security designation. All these other things, such as digital commodity tokens or stable coins, such as XRP, et cetera, XLM, these are what's known as digital commodities and are not securities at all. So now we have complete clarification, both from the CFTC, who monitors this let's say, environment of crypto land, okay? And then the SEC themselves saying, we're not going to be suing any more companies like Ripple over what is a digital commodity, because that is not our lane. Our lane is securities. And so as you see tokenization of, not Bitcoin, but tokenization of stocks and bonds that currently reside in the stock exchange, those are going to retain the securities designation and will continue to be monitored by the SEC. So this is big news. This is clarity. Very interesting that this is coming out with full clarity prior to the Clarity Act, the digital asset clarification bill that we know is coming. And we do expect that to be done within the next 30 days or so. So hopefully here within April, we would have the Clarity Act passed, and that would give us full rules of the road in all of these areas, which is part of the new financial system, okay? This is important because we need to have law and order and structure protecting the new financial system before we issue new currency. So all of these are stepping stones that are getting us to the direction of a financial reset, as many of us have been talking about for some time. These are important things that must happen and need to occur in order to have a reset. So if you're hearing messages that the reset's already begun, it's incorrect. We still need these things in place so that we can have a reset, and that's why we need to do this. So let's keep moving on. Again, Stuart Alderati weighed in. Stuart Alderati is the chief legal counsel for Ripple, and he said this about this information. We always knew XRP wasn't a security, and now the SEC.gov has made clear what it is, a digital commodity. Grateful to the Crypto Task Force for working to deliver the clarity that markets, investors, and innovators have long deserved. So this is great. Of course, Ripple knows better than anybody the reality of this. They fought long and hard to win this, and now actually we have complete market clarity for all companies. Kenny Wynn posted this. Breaking news, Missouri is the second U.S. state to advance a crypto bill to add XRP to the state digital asset reserve after Arizona has done this as well. So Arizona did this first. Now we have Missouri doing this. House Bill number 2080. And this is big news as cryptocurrency is becoming an accepted medium of exchange for bill payments and stuff within these state governments, which is going to lead us to the next one here, which is really fantastic. X-Finance Bull posted this. The U.S. state government has launched a stablecoin. They chose HBAR. What are we talking about? Wyoming. The state of Wyoming has created its own first stablecoin. This is basically a digital version of U.S. dollars. They're using the Hedera or HBAR blockchain to do this, and this is really fascinating. It says, when the commission evaluated which blockchain to add beyond their initial launch chains, Hedera was the only one selected. Not Ethereum as an add, not Solana, but Hedera. This is fully backed by U.S. Treasuries and cash, 102% collateralized, regulated under the Wyoming Stable Token Act. So this is big news. Wyoming now declaring that their new stablecoin is considered legal currency within the state of Wyoming, and this can be shared digitally over blockchain. Big news. Again, we're watching the implementation of a new financial system. Isn't this awesome? Eric Daugherty had this to share. He says, breaking, the U.S. Senate just voted to advance the Save America Act 51-48. It's time for a total floor takeover. Republican senators drawing out debate for days. This is insane when it's an 85-15 issue where the public barely, can barely crack 50% in the Senate. Don't give up till it's law. Of course, we know they're working on this. This is the law that provides clarity of only U.S. citizens can vote, and it gives us an opportunity for to take back our country and have real representation. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent posted this. Congratulations to the Federal Reserve, the USOCC, and the FDIC.gov in today's Basel Capital proposal. I want to read this. This is very important information. This dropped just today, a few hours ago, by the Treasury Secretary. Today's outdated capital requirements are needlessly complex and misaligned with their actual objective. Rather than solving for safety and soundness, they are pushing lending out of the regulated banking system while simultaneously impeding economic growth. The last administration aimed to hijack the Basel modernization effort to reverse engineer ever higher capital requirements without rhyme or reason. Under President Trump's leadership, we have taken a principled and calibrated approach that simplifies capital requirements and fosters a level playing field for banks of all sizes. If finalized, this proposal would advance those goals, fostering economic growth through our regulatory regime. Today is an important step in the regulatory reset our administration is working towards, making meaningful progress towards a financial system that builds parallel prosperity for Main Street and Wall Street. This is big, folks. This is really big. Did you just hear that? Play it back if you need to. This is the implementation of our new financial system, and here we are with the Treasury providing a clear framework of how lending and capital requirements are going to be required among the banks. And it says, I'm going to repeat this, we have taken a principled and calibrated approach that simplifies capital requirements and fosters a level playing field for banks of all sizes. This means it's going to bring back your hometown savings and loan type banks and other institutions that have been pushed out of the market previously because they couldn't meet outrageous requirements. This is going to allow them to function at a much higher level, including credit unions. So this is big. This is very big, and it gives you an indication that we are marching our way to the conclusion of this financial reset, which I think is credible. Let's move on now to developments that are going on in Iran. We're going to talk a little bit about this. Of course, the title of this episode today is called The Defeat of the Cabal. And the reason we titled it that is because many of the things that you're seeing take place, even in Iran, are about the defeat of the Cabal. Okay? So let's take a look at some of these items that have taken place, and then we're going to have some discussion about it. First off, listen to President Trump. This is a comment that he made on St. Patrick's Day. You can see he's wearing his green tie. And he took some questions about this. So take a look.
Mr. President, your director of National Counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you talk
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that presidents should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there loaded with cash? Hundreds of millions of dollars. You would have been very happy. This was a wonderful. They sent hundreds of millions. People forget that. Does anybody remember? Right? You remember. Hundreds of millions of dollars in a Boeing 757. I think they had two of them loaded. They took the seats out and they put cash. And it was so much that there wasn't a bank in Virginia, Maryland, or D.C. that had any money left. They stripped them of all their money, put it into place, sent it to Iran, almost as ransom. That's not going to happen with Trump. And nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever said anything. Can you imagine if I did that? So they've been a threat for a long time. But they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust, and you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people, because, and there are some people, I guess I would say that, but they're not smart people or they're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat. And virtually every NATO nation, and this is the thing, if they told me it wasn't a threat, and therefore they don't want to help, but when they say it was a threat, and it was a major threat, every one of them, I think every one of them, I don't know of one that said they're not a threat, but when they say it was a threat, but we're not going to help, I think they're very foolish. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But Biden gave them between $350 and $400 billion of equipment and cash. Someday they'll have to find out about the cash. And you could say that wasn't a threat, you know, we're helping them. So we helped them, and they didn't help us. And I think that's a very bad thing for NATO. Yeah.
So as we look at some of these issues going on there, Trump is disagreeing with most of the world, saying, oh, this wasn't a threat. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. I want to show you a few more slides here because this is important stuff. This is Fox News reporting on the Strait of Hormuz and this push for security within the Strait so that oil flows can move from the Arabian Sea out to the rest of the world. So take a listen to what he says here.
So far, Germany, Italy, and Japan have said they will not send ships to the region. Guys, back to you.
Very interesting. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, just to follow up on that. It's pretty amazing that Germany goes, no, I'm not going to do anything. UK says, no, I'm not going to help. France says, I got some in the area. We'll see what I can do. Japan says no. And I think this, we're going to be fine. It's going to be just a couple more weeks that maybe there's more shooting going on. But in the big picture, this backs up what the president's been saying about our allies in times of crisis. Are they going to be there?
Well, especially when the president yesterday said we only get 1% of our oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Japan, who's saying they're not going to help and not going to send ships, gets 95%. China, 90%. South Korea, 35%.
Well, they fell for the trap because, as the president said during that press conference yesterday, it's almost a test. He goes, do we really need them? No. He goes, but I kind of want to see what they're going to say to us. Are they going to be there? And they're kind of proving his theory, what he said all along.
Yeah, Germany.
So NATO saying, oh, yeah, we're behind you 100%. The U.S. funds NATO, the U.S. protects NATO, and yet NATO is not there for the U.S. So very fascinating as we watch this play out. And this is, like I said, a couple days ago, a lot's happened in 48 hours, okay, as you're going to see. Trump posted this on Truth Social. The United States has been informed by most of our NATO allies that they don't want to get involved with our military operation against the terrorist regime of Iran in the Middle East. This despite the fact that almost every country strongly agreed with what we are doing and that Iran cannot in any way, shape, or form be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. I am not surprised by their action, however, because always considered NATO, where we spend hundreds of billions of dollars per year protecting these same countries, to be a one-way street. We will protect them, but they will do nothing for us, in particular in a time of need. Fortunately, we have decimated Iran's military. Their navy is gone. Their air force is gone. Their anti-aircraft and radar is gone. And perhaps most importantly, their leaders at virtually every level are gone, never to threaten us, our Middle Eastern allies, or the world again. Because of the fact that we have had such military success, we no longer, quote unquote, need or desire the NATO countries' assistance. We never did, in all caps. Likewise, Japan, Australia, or South Korea, in fact, speaking as President of the United States of America, by far the most powerful country anywhere in the world, we do not need the help of anyone. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So very fascinating as he's putting everybody into the spotlight. All these countries into the spotlight. What are they going to do? Are they going to be there? Are they going to take care of these issues in the world? Okay. Let's move to the next one here. Babylon Bee couldn't help itself. Of course, I had to put out this meme. There's these memes have been going around of the Ayatollah leader in a cardboard cutout. And so, of course, they posted this. Trump lures gay Ayatollah out of hiding with a cardboard cutout of David Hasselhoff, of course, back when he was in the Baywatch series. So very fascinating. I thought it was kind of funny. It's okay to have a little humor in some of this because it gets pretty serious. U.S. Special Command gave us some video of things that they're doing. U.S. forces continue to hunt and destroy Iranian targets that pose threats to Americans and Iran's neighbors. And if you look here, this is a military rig with what looks like a missile launching equipment. So let's take a look. Wow, there it is. They're blowing this stuff. Notice they're trying to hide in the trees, hoping that they can hide from the U.S. military. And we're hitting them with exact precision. They put out another graphic here. Hours ago, U.S. forces successfully employed multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions on hardened Iranian missile sites along Iran's coastline near the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian anti-ship cruise missiles in these sites posed a risk to international shipping in the strait. So if you look at that graphic there, and they kind of blew it up, what we see here is we see this right at the point of the strait. They had all kinds of military installations on the Iranian side of there. And so Central Command has eliminated the threat. It's gone. Donald Trump then posted this yesterday at 6:35 in the morning. I wonder what would happen if we finished off what's left of the Iranian terror state and let the countries that use it, we don't, be responsible for the so-called strait. That would get some of our non-responsive allies in gear and fast, President Donald J. Trump. Okay, again, calling out the allies for doing nothing in this situation. Apple Lamps posted this, talking about the situation and Trump's call out. The Strait of Hormuz was supposed to end Trump's presidency. Iran blocked it, oil spiked, gas prices surged. The plan was simple: crush the American worker with inflation until the political pressure forced a retreat. But the trap is inverted. The oil market has fractured into two tiers, $100 in America and $150 in Asia. China, India, Japan, South Korea, the nations that refused to send warships when Trump asked, are now paying 50% more per barrel than the country that launched the war. Demand destruction has started across Asia. Schools are closing, workers sent home, petrol pumps running dry in the Southeast Asia. Meanwhile, American refineries are actually increasing output, running on light sweet crude that never touches the Hormuz Strait. Trump told them to help open the strait. Every single one refused. NATO said it wasn't their war. China negotiated selective passage from a destroyed regime. Japan declined. Australia declined. Now the strait is doing to them what it was designed to do to Trump. Very fascinating. Trump actually reposted this particular share to emphasize the point. Now let's turn a little attention to Mark Rutte. He is the Secretary General of NATO, and hear what he has to say about the issue, because he doesn't seem to agree with many of these countries of Europe. Take a listen.
Of the ballistic missiles, of the nuclear capability is severely degraded. When it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, I've been in contact with many allies. We all agree, of course, that strait has to open up again. And what I know is that allies are working together, discussing how to do that. What is the best way to do it? They are working on that collectively to find a way forward.
So he thinks we should be working on this issue. Now, before I get to the rest of this news on Iran, I just want to make something really clear here. Why are we even there in the first place? What are we doing in Iran? Why did we hit the nuclear facilities last summer? Why are we wiping out the military today? The reason is because the Cabal, who owns the current financial system and has been running this entire control grid across the world, putting us all into debt slavery, has been using Iran as their private military. Why is this important to understand? It's important to understand because if we were to try to make a change in financial systems and to switch to something else, they would have used this weaponry upon us all over the world. If you'll see, many allies within the Middle East already had their targets identified, and many of them have received hits directly from Iran. And these are supposed to be neighbors and friends in the region. This is a necessary demilitarization. In other words, we are capping the capability militarily for the Cabal to hit us with something that could hurt the lives of millions of people or end them. Without this military kinetic activity that's going on there to wipe out this threat, we would never be able to get to a financial reset because there would be bombs and missiles going off the moment we tried. This is a necessary part of the reset. It cannot be separated from it. It's all connected to it. And this is important to understand. This is a rogue nation. They have no allegiance to anyone or any friends or neighbors. Their allegiance is to the Cabal directly. So we're closing down their ability. We're defeating their private military capability. Why are all their other actors? And if you look at the Western Hemisphere, you see these places like Venezuela, places like Cuba, places like Mexico, where you have cartels with military equipment. Do you think the United States and many other countries are just selling cartels military equipment? No, it's being acquired quietly through the connections with many of the Cabal's leaders. They're using their connections deep within intelligence agencies to try to make these purchases. This is why we're having to have kinetic war operations now. The fact that we're doing this on the surface of the earth at this time means we have reached a certain point in this war. Years ago, everything was underground. Everything was undersurface. It was the deep underground tunnels that we were fighting battles in. Now that we've cleared that and eliminated their place of escape, now we're going to the surface and eliminating their place of refuge. And what this has done is it's exposed anyone connected to the Cabal. Look at the leaders of Europe, how they are responding to this. they're sticking their heads up just like a chickmunk out of a hole saying, here I am, I'm part of the cabal too. Isn't this fascinating what we're seeing? So all of the strategy being employed here is exposing them all. So now we know where we need to go next. We can see, well, this is the next target. This is the next target, because we must eliminate the ability for them to hurt us as we try to flee this oppressive financial system and be free once and for all with sovereignty, with the ability to exchange freely with one another. This is highly important. It's important that everybody grasps the whole of this. I said last week that we're talking about their connection between all of these various countries, and they are all connected, is cabal control. And now we're seeing countries throughout Europe and others make moves. Now, we saw something very interesting here in the United States. The Prime Minister of Japan flew into the United States and met with Trump at the White House today and has reversed any course indicating they are not going to help in the Middle East. They are going to help, and they are going to convince their friends and neighbors to help, because this is about the freedom of the entire world. This is about ending the financial tyranny. So fascinating what we're watching. We're in the midst of a great battle, but we're winning. We're gaining the higher ground. We are defeating the cabal. I want everybody to see and understand that. John Solomon reported this. The Treasury Department eases oil sanctions on Venezuela to boost oil world supply amid the Iran war. So the U.S. is doing all it can to bring more supply online. Next.
Maria, to be clear, this is a coordinated effort. We had a break the glass plan across the administration and at Treasury. We unsanctioned Russian oil. We knew that there were about 130 million barrels on the water, and we created supply that is beyond the Straits of Hormuz. So we anticipated this. We knew that there could be a temporary, and I want to emphasize temporary, choke point there, and there was 130 million barrels of floating storage. In the coming days, we may unsanction the Iranian oil that's on the water. It's about 140 million barrels. So depending on how you count it, that's 10 days to 2 weeks of supply that the Iranians had been pushing out. That would have all gone to China. In essence, we will be using the Iranian barrels against the Iranians to keep the price down for the next 10 or 14 days as we continue this campaign. So we have lots of levers. We've got plenty more that we can do. The largest coordinated SPR release in history, 400 million barrels, was approved last week. And some countries are going to do more. The U.S. could unilaterally do another SPR release to keep the price down. As you will have noted, WTI and its European counterpart Brent have substantially diverged over the past few trading sessions. They were trading right on top of each other last week, and this is because the U.S., thanks to President Trump in his first term, the continuing efforts here, is virtually energy independent. Yeah. And when President Trump says our allies should join us in a coalition along the Straits of Hormuz, that they're the ones who need this oil. The U.S., we're an oil exporter.
So this is very interesting how this is shaking out. So in the midst of all of this, the United States has released 400 million barrels from its strategic stockpile to ease the burden. Now it's approved 150 million barrels from Venezuela to ease the burden. Now it looks like they're going to unsanction 140 million barrels from the Iranian ships that are sitting there. They're already loaded, just waiting for delivery. And in the midst of all this, Russia has had the sanctions lifted on their oil. So this is fascinating. I think as you watch this, a lot of people are like, well, what What is going on? I thought Russia was the bad guy. They're fighting a war in Ukraine. Now, Russia has been considered an ally of Iran for many years, as many of you know. And during this entire conflict, they said nothing, did nothing. The only thing that Putin did was he stood up and gave a remembrance of the Ayatollah leader after he was deceased. That was optics. And then shortly after that, Trump removes the sanctions on Russian oil. This is very interesting how it's turning. Everybody thought this was going to end the world. They could use this oil shortage against Donald Trump. And yet that's not what's occurring. The cabal is finding themselves continually in the crosshairs as we eliminate them from point to point to point. Their underground refuge is gone. They're on the surface, now moving speedily wherever they can go to. And we're going to find that their places of refuge are retreating very, very quickly. So let's move on to the next slide. Oh, hang on, I got to get my remote working here again. There we go. Okay, take a look at this. Zero Hedge posted this, and this plays right into the video we just saw with Scott Besson. And now we have three oil markets. Asia, which is Oman oil at $167 per barrel. Brent, only $113 per barrel. And the U.S. WTI at $97 a barrel. Three distinct oil markets. Asia, Europe, and Brent, and U.S. WTI. Look at that. The oil market is fragmented, now trading 150 barrel plus in Asia. So this isn't hurting the other countries as much as it's hurting the ones right in the region. What is this doing? It's going to bring everybody to bear and say, we got to fix this problem. Why should America have oil at $50 less than over here in Asia? Right? So you're going to see a bunch of countries coming to actually participate to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. And we heard from the leader of Japan just today that's exactly what they're going to do as she met with Trump in the White House today. So big stuff going on in Iran. Keep in mind, we're taking down the cabal. We're removing their power and control. This Iranian operation was about eliminating their military threat, their private military threat, their military that has no allegiance to any other country on the planet. They built this up so that they could try to prevent us from ever getting out of the system, from removing their financial cabal. And yet it's moving forward anyway, and we're actually ahead of schedule. Congratulations to the patriots. Our hearts and prayers are with those who have lost loved ones in this conflict. The war has been real. We have lost people in the underground tunnels. We have lost people on the surface. None of this that we are fighting for is without blood. Please pray for these families. Pray for the military. Pray for your leaders who are fighting this battle. We must be united in this front. The most difficult thing for me to see is when I see people that are part of MAGA or other communities that are supposedly supportive of the president talking trash about him everywhere you turn. And yet, if you look at the fruits of his labor, everything he has done has been the liberation of not just our country, but the entirety of the world from this oppression. We are in a time when we should not be pointing fingers at each other. We're in a time when we should unite. We should put our arms around each other and be supportive. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's hard. Yes, when an old system is collapsing, it's financially hard. We all go through the pain and suffering of that. This is true. But it doesn't mean we should take it out on each other. We're taking it out on the cabal who put us there. And the faster we get through these operations, the faster we get to the conclusion, which will be a liberation for all. So I hope this has been helpful. We're going to move on to other topics now. Partial shutdown continues in the U.S. government. The Senate is holding up a funding bill that could fund the border security, which includes our TSA members in airports across the world. Listen to what Abby Hamrock had to say about the problems that are creeping up in airports across America.
1 month into the partial government shutdown, hundreds of TSA workers have quit or called in sick after going without full pay, impacting travel times across the country. Travelers at the eastern Iowa airport say getting through security hasn't been as smooth as usual. Some say the lines are moving slower, while others are dealing with delays and cancellations.
Experience with the airport has probably been the worst I've ever experienced. TSA was a little bit slow, and then once we got through, immediately our flight was canceled. 5 minutes prior, we were checking the flight, good to go, and once we got here, it was donezo.
The staffing shortages come as the partial government shutdown stretches into its second month, leaving many TSA workers without full pay.
We had to drive 4 hours here to get a flight, and our flight was delayed, but the lines at Minneapolis were like super long. They were longer than usual airport lines.
Other travelers say the uncertainty has made the airport experience more frustrating.
We arrived an hour early, and at the counter, the woman that I got, she was nice, but I had asked her if I needed to check in my bag or anything before going through the gate, and she really had no answer for us. And so that was just a little frustrating that we had to wait.
Officials say the best advice for travelers right now: arrive early and be prepared for possible delays in security. In Cedar Rapids, Abby Hamrock, Iowa's News Now.
So what's causing this? Why are we having trouble approving budgets to just simply have our Homeland Security and Border Patrol funded along with TSA? What's causing this is the cabal within our own government. They want us to crumble. They want us to falter. They want us to fall apart because they're trying to regain control. We need to see this. There are leaders within our congressional government that are controlled politically and financially by the cabal. And you're going to hear more of this as we go throughout. So let's watch a little more on this subject. KTSM 9 News shared this. TSA workers missed their first full paycheck as a partial government shutdown stretches past the 1 month mark. Take a listen.
Well, spring break is here and a lot of people are heading to the airport. But with the partial government shutdown, a lot of travelers are wondering what to expect. And El Paso, we ended up looking at the El Paso International Airport, and well, we discovered that there are no major delays or cancellations at the airport, but that's not the case for the rest of the country. Let's get into it. Throughout the country, security lines stretched long during peak hours today as TSA workers just missed their first full paycheck due to the shutdown, which began in mid-February ahead of the DHS funding lapsing. And on Capitol Hill, there's still no clear end in sight. In fact, TSA officials warn that some airports could face partial shutdowns if this continues, saying the system is already, quote, fully stretched. Now, on top of that, weather is adding to the chaos. More than 3,800 flights were delayed today, and over 1,000 were canceled, largely from a major storm impacting the east. So if you are headed to the airport anytime soon, make sure that you're planning ahead, arriving early, and packing plenty of patience. Some airports are reporting TSA wait lines of over 2 hours. To keep updated on this story, just make sure you're heading on over to ktsm.com.
So a lot going on here with this Homeland Security being shut down, and it's causing major problems. Take a listen to this brief interview here with Brett Baer.
Meantime, there's a partial government shutdown that continues when it comes to the Department of Homeland Security. The TSA lines getting longer in places like Atlanta, and we're seeing a lot of potential problems as more TSA agents don't show up because they haven't gotten a check. Is there a solution here?
Well, there's a solution, and that is to fund the government and not defund law enforcement, which is what the Democrats want to do. They are back to that theme, which didn't serve them very well in the past. But they don't want to fund ICE, our Customs and Immigration Enforcement. They don't want to fund Border Patrol, which is, tasked with securing and making sure that the border is secure, which is something during the the Biden era, where millions of people just flocked into the country. And President Trump has secured it, shut it down, and now the Democrats don't want to fund the agency that's tasked with doing that. So, but we're on, we waited 18 days for their latest offer. The White House put forward a good faith offer to fund DHS. Democrats waited until late last night, 18 days, to counter that. So we now have a counter from them. The White House has put out the things that they've been willing to do to address some of the concerns that Democrats have had with respect to reforms. And we just got a letter from Tom Homan and from James Braid at the White House that lays some of those out.
Is there hope that that gets some movement?
Well, it should. I mean, I can't believe, again, the Democrats are defending a position that not only were there reforms in the initial bill, which they helped negotiate and then walked away from, but since then, the White House has negotiated a number of subsequent reforms, including body-worn cameras, more money for those, audits for those, limitations on where ICE agents can go, like places like hospitals, schools, those sorts of things. And then, and also they've made a number of changes with respect to how, when they do these, when they're conducting these operations, and how they're identified, and making sure that people know who this is. And that's a concern, obviously, too. The one thing that the administration did not want to give on, and I think it's a legitimate concern, is masks. As long as you have sanctuary cities and a lot of these locally elected officials who are encouraging doxing of law enforcement officials, you cannot, these are people who need to be protected, and they need to be able to conduct these operations and do their jobs in a safe way.
So this was John Thune, who is the majority leader within the Senate. So he's trying to push these bills through, the Save America Act, as well as the Clarity Act, and of course this funding for Department of Homeland Security. And he's having all kinds of problems because he can't seem to get enough support from Democrats, but also Republicans. So many are looking at this, scratching their head going, how many in the government are corrupt? And that is a very good question as we watch this unfold. Let's move on to another topic, and that is voter fraud and how it's being exposed and what we can expect to see over the next few weeks. Gateway Pundit posted this. Declassified doc confirms China did, in fact, breach the U.S. election security leading up to the 2020 election, with Republicans working to pass a Save America Act in the Senate to safeguard election integrity. A new report out of Washington is highlighting potential danger to American elections that Democrats don't want to talk about. And it turns out there's a good reason for that, since it could cast a shadow over Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 vote that has never quite set right with the American right. It's a danger that comes from the People's Republic of China, the United States' most dangerous enemy on the global stage. Now, as we look at this, take a listen to what John Solomon has to say here, because he actually has seen the evidence on this and is now reporting on this very topic.
And today we have a bombshell, something that has been kept from you for nearly 6 years. In as early as February of 2020, the United States intelligence community determined that China had breached U.S. voter registration data, had gained access to the data that voters used to register to vote in the 2020 election. Now remember, we've been told time and time again there were no foreign interferences in the 2020 election. But the U.S. intelligence community absolutely concluded that China had done this. They had several reports involving several states. Now, we don't know this yet because anyone in the Trump administration has declassified that information. They may soon do so. We've asked them to, and I believe they're honestly working on it. We know this because we were able to get a document that was declassified by the Biden administration that referred to these findings in April of 2020. It is a National Intelligence Council memo. If you go over to justthenews.com right now, the story just moved a few minutes ago. You can download that document and read it yourself. Page 3, paragraph 2, a single sentence that says that China began accessing voter registration data in hopes of analyzing American public opinion in the 2020 election. Now, we have several intelligence officials confirming that this has been covered up for years. The only person ever to refer to it was the current CIA director, then the director of national intelligence under President Trump in 2020, who made reference to China's extensive intrusions on the 2020 election, accusing the CIA at the time of not paying enough attention to it. Now he's the director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe is, but you will see all of the data. There are memos, interviews, open source intelligence that would guide you to all of the facts, all on the record. It is a pretty big story. Go check it out at justthenews.com.
So the evidence is now pouring out, and it cannot be ignored. And you're going to hear a lot more of this over the next 60, 90 days as more of this vote fraud comes out. And I expect this is going to lead us into an emergency broadcast message as part of this reset. Now, many have said, oh, I don't believe there's going to be an EBS. And I want to just bring some clarity to that for a second. I've never said there wouldn't be an EBS. What I said was I don't agree with the prevailing rumor of 10 days of lockdown. EBS is necessary in order to establish the public disclosure of martial law. This is how we're going to have justice. You can't have justice in a system that the entire system is corrupted. Could you possibly think we could have justice in our current judicial system? No, it's not going to happen. So we need to have a means of this becoming military justice, which I do expect will occur, and I think that comes from an emergency action that would be taken. So an emergency broadcast of some type. However, I don't think it's going to be followed by days and days of lockdown and sit and watch movies. We are watching the movie now. We're actually having all the disclosure given to us now, day after day and week after week, and we're sharing some of that on this program tonight. So we do expect that these events are unfolding and will continue to unfold over the next coming weeks as we learn more about the fraud, financial fraud, as well as voter fraud. All of this is about corruption that was fed by a financial system where they printed money out of thin air to pay off everybody to keep the corruption going. So we're putting an end to that with all of this, and I'm excited to see that. So as we look at this, and speaking of voter fraud, tell me how many of you believe this one. Okay, let me make it full screen for you there. Breaking, Kim Jong-un has just won North Korea's parliamentary elections with 99.93% of the vote. Of course, this was on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. I wonder who the 0.07% were. Anybody have any idea? Pretty dangerous to vote against Kim Jong-un in that country. Probably not a surprise that he stays in power, given what we've seen. But vote fraud there, you might think? We'll see. As we get to towards the end of this segment about vote fraud, I got a couple more pieces that I'm going to give you from John Solomon, because he's been digging hard on this. The Skiff posted this, huge U.S. intelligence reports that not only China was helping Joe Biden steal the 2020 election, but now new intel shows that Ukraine was also helping Biden steal the 2020 election. Take a listen.
There are scores of raw intelligence reports that show Chinese meddling in the American election, and there's one report raising concern that Ukraine was engaged in a plot to do something bad in the 2024 election to help Joe Biden. I want to repeat that. There is intercepted intelligence that the Trump administration has had for many, many months, in which it is suggested by Ukrainian officials that they're going to try to help Joe Biden win the election using American taxpayer money.
So it just keeps going on. Now we find out Ukraine's involved in voter fraud, which is fascinating. Trump posted this yesterday. Free Tina Peters, a 73-year-old woman with cancer, given a 9-year death sentence in a Colorado prison by a Democrat governor, Jared Polis, and a corrupt political machine for exposing fraud by the Democrats during the 2020 presidential election. Again, free Tina. She's from Mesa County, Colorado, and she had all of the evidence of vote tampering in her county, captured that information both prior to and after hard drive images. And the state came down on her, threw her in jail for exposing the fraud. And Trump then issued a pardon on Tina Peters, which the governor has refused to acknowledge. So even though she's been pardoned by the President of the United States for these crimes, the corrupt governor of Colorado is refusing to honor that pardon. And again, she still sits in jail. We do hope that Tina will be out very soon. She is struggling with her health there. She has some very serious health conditions that have come. Her son was killed in combat, defending freedom for our nation. She is what's called a Gold Star mom. There is no reason this should be happening whatsoever. And I would like to see this ended soon. Please pray for Tina. Please pray for her. Pray for her family. Pray that justice will come to the righteous, particularly in this case. Moving on to other topics, fraud, removing the fraud, waste, and abuse. So let's take a look at this. We got more stuff here. White House, the President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance participate in the signing. This was on March 16th. That was Monday, in which President Trump and J.D. Vance signed a executive order launching the fraud department. J.D. Vance is put in charge of the fraud. Many of the press calling him a fraud czar, I think the term was. He didn't seem to care that they called him the fraud czar. More information about fraud coming from New York. New York City spends more per homeless person than even the median New York City household. $81,705 per person in 2025. That's incredible. $81,705 is a floor. It excludes supportive housing, which could be $500 million a year, mental health response teams, and NYPD encampment costs. The city projects $97,000 per person for fiscal year 2026. Is that not insane? Now, I know many of you out there watching this and listening to this probably are thinking, give me that money, right? You could do great things with it. Isn't it amazing what kind of fraud, waste, and abuse is going on in New York that they're spending that much per homeless person? Incredible. Nick Shirley has been on the run trying to capture fraud, waste, and abuse. He started with a series of video and documentation in Minnesota. Now he's working in California doing the same. 40-minute interview of my crew and I exposing California fraud. Minnesota was big, but California even bigger. We uncovered 170 billion with the B. This is incredible, folks. 170 million, let me get that right. Million, sorry. In fraud, as these fraudsters live luxury with no consequence, like, share, fraud must stop. And then he shared this whole video. I'm not going to share the whole video, but I'm going to share just a little bit, okay? Because I think this is important to grasp.
This is the sound of hospice money. Could you just answer the question, what's the need for a 1,000% increase in hospice care here inside of LA? Do you have the paperwork to enroll a little boy by the name of Joey?
You don't know what's going on?
Well, it says there's 14 children enrolled here on the state of California. That there is $6,000 per beneficiary. Can you give us any explanation? Where can we open a hospice at? Get a Maybach just like you.
California may have the largest amount of fraud in the country, as California is the state with the highest taxes and collects more money than any other state in America. It is filled with fraud. California's version of Medicaid, called Medi-Cal, has more than doubled since 2022 from $108 billion to a proposed $222 billion in 2026. Their population, however, has not grown exponentially. However, their spending has. There has been a 1,000% increase in hospice care in the Los Angeles County. In fact, 1 out of every $10 of home health care in America is spent in Los Angeles. On top of that, their government-funded daycare programs are filled with violations. While they continue to give money to these fraudsters, it is estimated that the fraud in California could be in the hundreds of billions of dollars. In this video, we'll be going face to face with these fraudsters, confronting them as they defraud the American taxpayer out of millions and billions of dollars as they live their lives in luxury, driving around luxurious cars that cost more than $100,000 that you actually paid for. Let's start first by going to these daycares filled with violations that still continue to receive money from the government.
So this is the location of the daycare. It's in the middle of this shopping plaza. A lot of the buildings are closed down or boarded up and have been graffitied. And then you also have just a big dumpster right here with all this garbage, and then the daycare is right there. We're gonna go in right now.
We actually have a homeless person there too. Did you see that?
There's actually somebody sleeping here right now. Hello? You all right?
Yeah.
And so there is a homeless man who's sleeping right next to the daycare. He's sleeping right here, and the daycare is right there. This does not look like a place where you'd want to bring your child, and it does not look suitable and set the code to be a place where children are enrolled.
So I'm not going to share the whole video. It's 40 minutes of expose on California fraud using federal funds to fund people driving luxury vehicles. Unbelievable. One American News posted this. Representative Tenney calls out massive abuse of Medicare and Medicaid, highlighting $600 million in fraudulent billing in Los Angeles County. Representative Claudia Tenney says the Deporting Fraudsters Act will crack down on fraud and protect Americans' tax dollars. Here's what she had to say.
This is not an isolated problem. Last fall, I blew the whistle on Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, exposing how one physician in his 80s billed Medicare over $600 million over the course of the Biden administration, basically from 21 through 2024, with 95% of billings concentrated in the Los Angeles County area. That level of abuse is unacceptable and underscores how vulnerable these programs are without strong accountability. Entering this country illegally is already a crime. Turning programs meant to help our truly needy citizens into vehicles for large-scale fraud is even worse. Those who steal from hardworking Americans must be held accountable and should not be allowed to remain in the United States. The Deporting Fraudsters Act restores fairness, protects taxpayer dollars, and reinforces the rule of law.
What they're talking about is legislation that has actually passed the House now. As of right now, it cleared the House, stating that anyone who is caught on the federal payroll of receiving benefits that is illegal is going to be deported immediately. So if you are here illegally, if you are using government assistance in any way and you are caught, you will have a fast track back to your home country. Eric Daugherty posted this. Breaking incredible development. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' office and AG James Omer just pledged 100% full cooperation with Dr. Oz's new investigation into rampant healthcare fraud in Florida. See how easy it is, Minnesota and California? So Dr. Oz is working so hard. You should be following him if you can on X. He's exposing all these different states where fraud is occurring. And Florida is fully cooperating. Shouldn't we have that in every state, fully cooperating to root out the fraud, get rid of the waste and abuse? Julie Donuts posted this. An American Academy of Pediatrics is being sued as a RICO case. This was fascinating. Lying to the public for decades about the childhood vaccine schedule and the safety and effectiveness of it. What they have done is crimes against humanity. It won't just stop at a lawsuit. These people need to go, and they need to pay for their crimes. Let's take a look at just a little snippet of this video.
Academy of Pediatrics was just hit with a federal RICO lawsuit filed by Children's Health Defense's legal team. They've been accused of running a decades-long racketeering scheme, lying to the American public about the childhood vaccine schedule and its safety, because there was never actually any proper safety studies, as AAP was claiming. And so it was basically made up out of thin air. They were enforcing their false narrative to all of the doctors across the nation. If they dissented, they would destroy their finances and basically end their careers. So they had the power of that. And they are receiving large sums of money from the vaccine manufacturers themselves to do this. Their top funders are Pfizer, Moderna, Merck. And so they receive this money. They put out fraudulent recommendations to the public and to physicians across the country. And they have defrauded the American people. You know, this sort of organized crime appears to have been ongoing for, you know, a very long time, many, many decades. And so finally, it is being exposed for all to see. And we look forward to the discovery phase of this lawsuit.
So now we're finding out many of the vaccines that are being pushed for years and years and being required for kids to go into school had never been tested, had never been proven safe and effective. They were just pushed out there. This is pretty scary stuff, folks. This is not what we want to see. Nick Sorter had one more thing to share here. Breaking, it's official. President Milei and Argentina have withdrawn from the World Health Organization, WHO, following President Trump's lead withdrawal some time ago. Every self-respecting country should be doing the very same. So incredible what we're seeing there. It's awesome, okay? Argentina used to be a stronghold for the Cabal. It is no longer. They're now getting rid of it. Thank you, President Milei. He's clearing it out of their corner of the world. We are clearing them out of every corner of the world. We are on the hunt. We're getting this done. We are defeating them at every turn. Donald Trump signed some executive orders regarding bringing housing costs in line to make it more affordable for Americans to actually buy houses. Listen to what he had to say here.
Today, I'm signing 2 historic executive orders continuing my administration's efforts to help more of our citizens achieve the dream of home ownership. It's called the American Dream. Thanks to our purchase of $200 billion in mortgage bonds, mortgage rates recently reached the lowest level in 5 years. This dramatically reduces monthly payments for new home buyers. The annual cost of the typical new mortgage is down almost $5,000 since I took office. I'm very proud of that. I also signed an executive order to stop Wall Street and large institutional investment firms from buying up all the single-family homes in the scheme to turn them into rentals and make lots of money in doing it. We want America to be a nation of owners, not renters. Today, I'm taking action to help reduce rates even more and make it much easier to build new homes in America. The first executive order is about bringing more community banks back into the mortgage business. 2 decades ago, over 5,000 community banks were offering mortgages. Today, that number has been slashed by more than 50%, largely because of burdensome, unnecessary regulations that radical liberals imposed on community lenders for the benefit of their donors on Wall Street and, frankly, for the benefit of themselves. The result was less competition and higher mortgage rates for hardworking Americans like you. That is why, under my order, we will eliminate the thicket of unnecessary rules and restrictions that crippled community banks. They've been hurt so badly. We're bringing them back. When more local banks start offering mortgages again, fees will go down, costs will fall, and home buyers will be able to get a mortgage under the more affordable terms that we're insisting on. The second executive order I'm signing today will help lower construction costs for building new homes so that home builders can offer Americans more affordable options. I'm going to sign them right now. No auto pen, okay? That's my real signature. It's not an auto pen like you had in the past. As part of the Green New scam, the Biden administration and many state and local governments added endless, ridiculous regulations that raised construction costs very, very substantially. With my order today, we will slash many of these pointless regulations that do nothing for safety and add lots of costs. Is really unfair to the home buyers, and ultimately, they're the ones paying for this disaster. Under the Trump administration, we want to make it possible for every American to live that American dream in a beautiful home. And it's really the one that they pick. It's going to be the apple of their eye. So I just want to thank everybody. Our country is doing really well. It's being thought of all over the world with great respect again, more than maybe it's ever had. Thank you very much. Have a good time.
So the president trying to make it possible for people to gain homes again, right? Let's get out of rentals. Let's get into home ownership. Department of State had this to share. Listen to what Marco Rubio says here about Cuba, which I thought was very interesting.
But the bottom line is their economy doesn't work. It's a non-functional economy. It's an economy that has survived. That revolution, it's not even a revolution, that thing they have has survived on subsidies from the Soviet Union and now from Venezuela. They don't get subsidies anymore, so they're in a lot of trouble. And the people in charge, they don't know how to fix it. So they have to get new people in charge.
So Cuba's crumbling, right? They are in negotiations right now with the United States, the leadership of Cuba. We do think they are in discussions about perhaps walking away and giving the government back to the people of Cuba. We do hope that is transitioned very seamlessly for the sake of the Cuban people. I think they've been watching what's going on in Iran, and I don't think they want any part of that. So there seems to be a lot of great discussion going on with Cuba at the moment. So as we get into some of the final points of today's podcast, we like to share a little bit of humor that goes around as well, because, if all you do is look at all the crazy stuff, it can make you crazy, and laughter is sometimes the best medicine. So on St. Patrick's Day, we had this, which I thought was very fascinating. Marco Rubio now is the leprechaun. Doesn't he make a great leprechaun? Okay. This meme was going around. I thought that was fun. Then we had this, okay. PNW Conservative posted, "You can't make this up. Even the dogs are tired of these clowns. Don't pretend to be a dog if you aren't ready to go toe-to-toe with them." Okay, and here we have a woman that is identifying as a dog. Okay, she's identifying a dog, and here she is in front of this store. Watch the video on the right side there.
You all right? I think so.
Oh my goodness. How crazy is it, okay, that we have a population of people that are trying to identify as another species? It's amazing what we've watched, okay? This tells you how easily it could be to actually program people into various ways of doing things that are antithetical to their absolute nature. So we don't want to see any more of that. But I just thought I'd share that because it's certainly going viral right now with many views. This video had a little fun. Now, I can't tell you whether this is AI or not. It probably is AI. But nevertheless, I thought it was kind of fun.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Wow, what a way to go, huh? You just want to get in your ambulance. Instead, you take a tumble down the hill. Diaper Diplomacy had this to share on St. Patrick's Day. Let's watch a little bit of this. I think it's fun.
Hello, laddies. This is your favorite president, and I just wanted to wish everybody a very happy, very tremendous St. Patrick's Day, the best one yet. And I'm very proud to say that no president in history has been more Irish than me. People don't know this, but I'm actually part Irish. Very big part, the biggest part. My people looked into it and they said, "Sir, you're basically a leprechaun." I said, "That tracks. I'm short-tempered, I hoard gold, and nobody can catch me." I get along very well with St. Patrick.
So that was a little bit there from Diaper Diplomacy, which we thought was kind of fun. Now here is actually video of President Trump on St. Patrick's Day, actually giving a proper tribute to St. Patrick's, and let's take a look at that.
remember the beautiful words of St. Patrick himself. May the power of God preserve us. May the wisdom of God instruct us. May the hand of God protect us. May the way of God direct us. May the shield of God defend us. And may the host of God guard us. That's beautiful. Thank you. And today we add, may God bless the people of Ireland, and may God bless the United States of America. And it's great to be with you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, President Trump, for giving that great tribute to St. Patrick. And really awesome how he has always tried to honor the legacy of in many different countries and the cultures in each of those countries, and has talked against much about how massive illegal immigration has hurt the cultures in many countries. And I do think we're going to see some of that. We're seeing it corrected here in America. I do think we're going to see it corrected in many other nations around the world as well. So as we get to this, one of the last videos here, little bit of humor as spoken from the mouth of babes. You know, kids say some of the funniest things, and I hope that you appreciate this as well.
Be honest, who is the best looking parent, mom or dad?
Well, both. But at night, Mom peels off her eyes, takes off her hair, and in the morning, I don't know who she is until she paints her face back on.
What does Mom say a lot?
She says 1 minute.
Is it 1 minute?
No, it's a mom minute. Nobody knows how long that is.
Does Mommy clean the house?
Yes, but only on Thursdays.
Why Thursday?
Because a cleaning lady comes on Friday. She says we can't let her know we live like pigs.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Rich like my dad.
Oh, your dad is rich?
No, he says he will be soon.
Okay, tell me this. Who's the best cook in your house?
DoorDash.
DoorDash? Your mom doesn't cook?
She cooks, but DoorDash is faster. And they bring 5.
Who is the boss at your home?
Mommy.
And Daddy?
Because Daddy's very scared of Mommy.
Oh, that's priceless.
So as we wrap up today's episode, I hope you enjoy a little bit of laughter, a little bit of fun from the children. It's important that we try to keep our sense of humor amidst the craziness of the time in which we live. We do realize it feels like a storm is raging, but we don't need to be fearful. We don't need to feel stormy inside. We can always connect with our Creator and feel the peace that surpasseth all understanding that gets us through this. He said, "Fear not. Fear not, for there is every good thing coming." So as we're at the end of the conclusion of today's episode, we hope this has been helpful for each of you. Just a reminder that for a limited time only, we are offering some consulting appointments with me. There's a limited schedule to that, and the current opportunity to get that for the price of a donation is not going to last forever. It'll probably continue through Easter. I don't know that it'll continue past then. So if you're wanting to get on that schedule and take advantage of that great opportunity, you can do so. Grateful to be with all of you again on this Thursday as we talk about the events unfolding in the world. I hope this has been helpful to understand some of the lay of the land of current events and how they're affecting our world and how they're leading us to a great reset where we can all be free from the financial tyranny and struggle that has encompassed many generations in our life. And so this is a great opportunity. I hope that we never forget the blessings that are coming forward to us and that are being revealed to us now, that we never forget who it is that has brought us light, love, and knowledge so that we might better live a happy, peaceful, and successful life. From all of us here at Enid Global Services, we wish you our best. We give our love to you. We hope that you will continue to be bright, be cheerful, and to be encouraged that we are walking our way to freedom, and we're getting there very successfully. And I hope the events that we shared today helped you realize how much has been accomplished over this last week and how much we have really certainly to look forward to. Trump has said this numerous times, the best is yet to come. I am telling you the best is coming. It's actually underway now. And even though it is a series of events, a series of steps that get us there, it is good that we celebrate each of these steps and that we rejoice in seeing the success of those each and every day. From all of us here, we love you. We'll see you next week. Hope you have a wonderful weekend and a great blessing. I hope you had a wonderful St. Patrick's Day this week and that you enjoyed it with friends in celebration. We'll see you again next week. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one. Bye-bye.